You know this plastic prison of theirs won't hold me forever. The war is still coming, Charles, and I intend to fight it. By any means necessary. And I will always be there, old friend.
I think we forget sometimes how much the current cinematic landscape owes to the X-Men series. Now that the series has rolled to a close and the YouTube community has finished mocking its final final-ish entry, we can now take the opportunity to reflect on the accomplishments of the franchise that helped shape the modern superhero genre as we know it. None of this would have been possible if the first two X-Men films were not as strong as they are. They're flawed in some ways and haven't aged the best in others. But one can't argue that they have their fair share of excellent scenes. One of the standout scenes of the second movie is where Magneto, after being imprisoned since the previous film in a high-security plastic prison, is given his opportunity to escape. Not only is this scene crucial to the story, but is very economical with his time, clocking in at around 2.5 minutes. And in that time, it winds up being one of the most memorable scenes in a 20-year-long franchise. So for those of you who haven't seen these films in a long time, after all, they're almost 20 years old now, Fox decided to capitalize on Blade's success and give the comic book movie genre a new breath of life by bringing X-Men to the big screen. They brought on director... We
do not speak his name.
And it would become a huge success, and it would change Hollywood for the next 20 years. There are two factions of mutants. There are Professor Xavier's X-Men and Magneto's, bad dudes. After the X-Men thwarted Magneto's plan to turn world leaders into mutants against their will, he was placed into a prison made of plastic and glass, so there was no metal for him to manipulate and free himself. So the setup of this escape begins at the very end of X-Men, the first film. And there are two lines which foreshadow big events in the next movie.
I feel a great swell of pity for the poor soul who comes to that school looking for trouble.
And we all know the legendary scene that winds up referencing, but we also get this.
You know this plastic prison of theirs won't hold me forever.
And we as an audience know this to be true. In many ways, the Spider-Man films, to me, hold up better than these older X-Men films. But one of the ways that these films were wiser in their construction was that they kept their main villain alive. Magneto is one of the best villains in fiction, and I don't mean that hyperbolically. He is a complex, compelling character, and we understand his struggle and sympathize for his plight. He's fighting for his rights, for him and his people to survive. While his methods are unethical, you can see that his cause is just. To have killed him off after the first movie would have been a catastrophic mistake. So this line shows us that he is promised to be in the next film and that he would continue his radical movement. And while the audience wasn't sure how he could get out, with Mystique still at large, we know that the cogs in his plan were still turning. It's a great way to end a movie. So his prison breakout scene is a promise kept. Even still, it is clever in that how it plays out remains a surprise. Mystique does some digging and seduces one of the guards, knocking him out and giving him an injection, but nothing is implicitly said, so we're trying to figure out her plan as it plays out. We know something is up.
There's something different about him, Mr. Laurie.
Okay, but how does that help us escape? It isn't until the scene's memorable line,
Too much iron in your blood,
that we see what's going on. And from that point forward, we are along for the ride to see the carnage unfold. And there is some satisfaction from it too. Because Magneto is such a sympathetic villain, we still do want him to be treated well. We understand that he needs to be in prison because he's too dangerous to be out, free in the world. But we don't dislike him, especially not to the point where we can tolerate an old man being beaten up by a bully prison guard. Not to mention that we find out earlier that these guards are complicit with William Stryker's plan. And since Stryker is the big villain of the film, we're more likely to side with the enemy that we know over the one that we don't. So when the guard gets lifted off the ground and the iron is extracted out of his blood, as gruesome as it is, the audience has been prepared for this moment for us to cheer and watch Magneto exact his revenge. And it is an X-Men movie, so it's fun to see somebody use their superpowers in a creative way. With the iron extracted, the situation is now out of the guard's control and Magneto is now propelling the scene. It is shot in such a way that it really reflects this too. As the camera pulls away from the prison and the pieces crumble, his form is revealed. We're given a sense of awe and danger as if we are retreating too. And as he uses the iron as a platform to levitate toward his escape, he emerges and we get a lower camera angle that raises and gives the look that he is descending, as if to show that he is a godlike mutant.
You are a god among insects.
As he puts it. And he uses the balls of iron to continue his breakout. The motion of the camera is shot in such a way that we might see Superman after performing some incredible feat. But of course, the feat here is that 2 more prison guards are picked off with speedy iron balls. The rest is left to the imagination. This isn't the only scene of this nature out in cinema, where we wind up rooting for the villain. It reminds me of the escape of Hannibal Lecter in Silence of the Lambs. We know he's evil and should not be out in the world, but something about the execution of his escape plan is so compelling and has us on his side for that scene. We're drawn to him because he's brilliant, and because of the relationship Clarice has built with him. But more than that, we enjoy seeing a single person overcome the odds and gain their freedom. Just like the scene with Hannibal, we don't know how he'll escape until the plan unfolds. While Magneto's scene is much tighter at about a quarter of the time, it goes through similar motions and leaves the audience with similar feelings of excitement, but with a healthy dose of dread. The scene is definitely crafted so that as Magneto begins his rampage, the audience pumps our collective fists into the air and go, "Yeah! You go, Magneto! You go and try and commit mass genocide." Oh yeah, right, he's the villain. How a scene is set up and directed can easily influence whose side the audience is on while we're watching it. And that makes this one excellent scene. Hello everybody, I'm Decepticon Doug, and this is Moving Pictures. I want to thank you for watching my one excellent scene video. If you're interested in my one marvelous scene video from last year, you can just check that out right up here. The channel here is basically just about reviewing nostalgic media, as well as some current reviews. So if that sounds like it's up your alley, please check out some of our other content, and hopefully I'll see you around. Thank you so much, have a good one.